Welcome to the Big Four Accounting Firms podcast, brought to you by big4accountingfirms.com and the Big Four Accounting Firms YouTube channel. Before we get started, just wanted to remind everybody to support us if you have a chance or if you can. Even $1 helps, and we have a link in the description to a website called Buy Me a Coffee. It's just a way to donate to us and support us. Again, any amount is helpful so that we can keep putting out content. And there's also other ways for you to support us in the show notes to this podcast or on YouTube in the description. In today's podcast, I wanted to talk about KPMG selling their restructuring unit. As you might remember, we've spoken a lot about KPMG trying to sell their restructuring arm in the past, and this is in the UK. And they finally accomplished their goal, and they sold this arm of their firm. And they sold their restructuring unit to HIG Europe. And this will be part of a firm called Interpath Advisory. Now, Deloitte previously sold their restructuring arm to CVC Capital. So that's two of the big four accounting firms that have sold their restructuring arms to outside private equity firms. And as part of the sale, more than 500 KPMG staff and 22 partners are moving to HIG. And the reason KPMG and Deloitte are selling these units is because of conflicts of interest, or perceived conflicts of interest. You might remember that the big four accounting firms are facing tons of scrutiny in Europe over accounting scandals like Carillion and other scandals, and it seems like they keep on happening in Europe and UK. So UK regulators have come down hard on them, and this is just another instance of governments thinking that they can regulate accounting firms and they can regulate behavior. The problem is it doesn't change behavior. There's too much going on in the big four accounting firms to try and regulate behavior. What needs to happen is there needs to be a change within the big four accounting firms. They need to try and be ethical themselves. It's really just a change in, I think, the motivation structure at the big four accounting firms. Right now, the big four accounting firms are set up to where you have to be utilized all the time and you have to be bringing in revenue. That's not an environment where ethics is really important because it's not one of the top things. If one of the most important things in the big four accounting firms was being ethical and the perception of being ethical, and that's what you're measured on based on your performance, or maybe if it was taught to big four accountants while they're in school, then maybe that's what they would get. But right now, the big four accounting firms are being regulated. This has happened in the past. This happened with Enron in the United States in the past. And it'll continue to happen again because accountants are always going to be doing these types of behavior. There's going to be fraud. There's going to be negligence. And then the regulators are going to step in because the public's going to be concerned. Not only the public either, it's also investors. Investors are worried that the accounting firms aren't looking at things. But it's just, this really isn't going to solve the problem. But as you can see, the big four accounting firms are getting out ahead of the regulation, and they're divesting of these arms of their accounting firms they've built up over the years, these consulting arms, and they're going to become different entities. But will that change behavior? I personally don't think so, but we'll keep an eye on this and see what it does. And we'll see if this happens at other accounting firms and if they sell more and more of their businesses off, because this is basically the accounting firms throwing in the towel and giving in to regulators. So that's the podcast for today. To stay up to date, make sure to subscribe to this podcast. Make sure to also use the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes to this podcast. We had somebody just donate and thank them a lot for that. It really helps us keep us going. So if you could do that, there's also tons of links in the show notes where you could help us out, whether you want to take a course. We have a course. We're going to be updating that. We have books in there that you can buy and help us out and help yourself out. So make sure to check those out. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Big Four Accounting Firms, as well. Thanks for listening.